Colin Cowherd's best bets for week 4. Welcome, football fans and gridiron gamblers. It's Mitch here with my reaction to Colin's Blazin 5. His favorite picks, spreads, totals for week 4. Are they correct or are they crazy? Should we fade or should we follow Colin in week 4? Before I get started with my thoughts on Colin's picks, spike the like button and don't be a jabroni. Subscribe to the channel, man, for weekly NFL betting advice. Let's go. Uncle Colin, Blazin 5, his favorite picks for week 4. Okay.
They didn't have the best week. I got some bad breaks. Undeterred, here's our Blazing 5.
Hey, man, Colin, you're not the only one. I'll just say that. You're not the only one, okay? Let's bounce back, Colin. Let's see what you got. That's a hot one. Also, let me know your thoughts on Colin's picks in the comment section below. And, of course, leave your best bet for week 4. Love to hear it.
Let's blaze it up. Fire it up. It's Colin's Blazin 5. Vikings versus Steelers.
Favorite bet on the board, I'm going to take Minnesota -2.5. I get the better offensive staff, better defense. I think right now, I don't know why I would like Pittsburgh. Minnesota's won 11 of its last 13 regular season games, and they've been very good on the road or away from home. I get Carson Wentz, Jordan Addison's back. Jordan Mason, more than capable. Justin Jefferson, I think I get a better offensive line, so I like the offense, and the defense ranks top 5 in the league. The Steelers' offense is a mess. They can't run the ball. They can't protect Aaron Rodgers. This coaching staff can't figure out a run.
Those are some crazy stats. Those are some crazy stats. It's only been one game, so it's not really fair, but look at that. I mean, the yardage, they did play Cincinnati, to be fair, but still. Wentz for the offense, experience, might be better than McCarthy right now, to be fair.
Game, I don't know why this line is only -2.5. The Steelers under time.
It's because of Carson Wentz. It's the picture of people betting on Carson Wentz over Aaron Rodgers. That's why it's only 2.5.
Well, have been a good underdog team. They'll play like their hair's on fire, but I think Minnesota 27-20 covers here. Better staff, better.
It's a higher scoring game than I would project.
Offense, better defense. Better road team. I'm going to take Minnesota.
Okay, I also have the Vikings as a best bet, so I 100% would follow this bet, and I think this will be correct. The Minnesota Vikings are the better team, outright better team. The Steelers are probably one of the more overrated teams in the NFL. They're 2-1, but in both of their wins, you could argue they got outplayed pretty significantly by the Jets on the road, and they certainly got outplayed by the Patriots. If the Patriots turn it over one less time, the Steelers probably lose that game. 4 fumbles, that's egregious, that's fluky, that's lucky, that's fortunate. The Steelers defensively are simply not playing like the Steelers. They haven't been consistent stopping the run. Their pass rush has not been quite as dominant, and they are certainly terrible in the secondary right now. They cannot cover. They have been really poor this year where their bread is buttered, right? That is their bread. That is their butter, the Steelers' defense over the years, and it's just not the same this year. Offensively, they just do very little well. They don't run the ball particularly well. They don't throw the ball downfield particularly well. They don't have a lot of weapons outside of DK Metcalf. Their best offense is screen passes. And really, Rodgers is stagnant in the pocket. There's a mismatch. Flores attacking Rodgers, where he's going to be antsy in the pocket with this leaky, shaky Steeler offensive line. I think the Vikings, he's right, have the much better defense. They have the much better weaponry. They have the better offensive line. They have the better coaching staff. Like, the Vikings are all the way around a better team, and there is a clear mismatch when it comes to Flores versus the worst quarterback against pressure this year, Aaron Rodgers. I 100% love this pick by Colin. I would bet this Vikings -2.5. I probably will be betting this. And if you guys want all my bets, link in the description, link, pinned comment, Patreon, $5 a month. All my bets every week of the NFL season. Check it out.
Panthers at Patriots.
My Patriots.
I'm taking the over 43.5. I don't get the number.
Okay. Over. Okay. I'm not so sure about this just because I think the Patriots defense might have their best performance of the year in this game against Bryce Young, a beat up offensive line, and they get their best player back. So watch out for that. Christian Gonzalez is probably going to be playing for the Patriots. Could totally tilt the way that the Patriots play defensively. But we'll break it down. Let's see his argument here. Obviously, Drake May has been playing well. We'll see what he says.
Listen, the Patriots outplayed the Steelers. They just kept coughing it up. Drake May in the last
Thank you, Colin. Thank you.
2 weeks is completing 74% of his throws. The problem for them is they don't have a pass rush. They're allowing the most big plays.
They don't have a pass rush. I don't know about that. They actually, have the strongest interior duo in pass rush win rate in the NFL. 2 of the top 10 guys at defensive tackle. And they do, I think, rank pretty highly in sacks. So it's not the best pass rush in football, but it's certainly not bad, I would say.
So for New England to win, they got to win. They got to score some points, and I think they will because Carolina's defense, they don't get to the quarterback either.
Now, I do agree with Carolina's defense, but this is why I would just take the Patriots minus 5.5. I would just take the Patriots to win the game. Patriots money line, Patriots, whatever you want to do. Teaser, I think the Patriots will win the game. I think that they will have their best performance, and I do think that it's just probably not going to happen 2 weeks in a row where they just turn the ball over consistently. But yeah, you're right. They moved the ball at will against Pittsburgh, at will against Miami, up and down the field the last 2 weeks. 2 bad defenses. And the Panthers, once again, a bad defense with very little in terms of their pass rush. Not a great run defense. Their secondary is solid. I'll give them that. But you can certainly attack their linebackers over the middle of the field. Drake May's been playing like one of the better quarterbacks right now in the NFL. And people aren't starting to buy it yet, but they will once he starts to win some games here. As you can see by the stats, I think the biggest thing I've been throwing out there is through 3 weeks, he has been the most efficient quarterback on 3rd and 4th down. So Drake May is living up to the hype. It's just that even with a limited supporting cast, it's just that they have been turning the ball over a lot. And that's got to stop. But I don't know, man. The reason I don't like this bet is because I think Carolina's offense matches up poorly with the Patriots' defense. Hubbard is questionable, their lead running back, who's a good player, and he's banged up. They lost their tight end. They put him on IR. Teteroa McMillan is beat up entering the game, and he's going to have to face Christian Gonzalez. With Gonzalez in the lineup in the secondary, that tilts the coverage for the Patriots and allows Davis to become the 2. It allows Marcus Jones to feel more comfortable at the nickel position, and it just allows the Patriots defense to be more flexible with blitzes and aggression up front because they do have that shutdown corner on one side of the field. And it takes away number 1 receivers, which has not been happening for the Patriots this year. They've been terrible against number 1 receivers so far this year. That's because they haven't had Gonzalez. I think that totally changes their defense. So I would actually stay away from the total here. I could see it going over if, let's say, the Patriots get a good lead and they score a bunch of points early and then the Panthers fight their way back. I could see that happening. But at the same time, I could also see the Panthers really struggling to score here. And I could see where New England has not been super consistent running the ball. Maybe if they're not able to just throw the ball at will against Carolina's underrated secondary, I do kind of think, it could be lower scoring than projected. But that's just my guess. I'd stay away.
They have 1 sack through their first 3 games. So you're going to get a very comfortable Drake May, who's going to have time at home to throw. The weather's not an issue. The bad weather's out of town. You have 2 defenses that don't get after the quarterback and 2 quarterbacks when they're not pressured who can complete a lot of passes and move the chain.
I do think Bryce Young will be pressured. I think he'll be pressured up the middle. They're missing a couple interior linemen. I think that's going to be a problem for him because he's small. You compress that pocket, it's going to be hard for him to step up and throw.
I think we get points in this game. 26-23. New England wins. Take the over. Bryce Young last week completed 67% of his throws. If he's got time, he does that.
I'm going to go Patriots 27-17.
Colts and Rams,
which would be right near the total.
I think this is a good spot for the Rams. Sean McVay off a disappointing close loss. They come back home. They have the 2nd highest grade by PFF.
The This is interesting.
Of any team in the league. Rams are a really good team that dominated Philly in Philly for a half. Puka and Devontae Adams have
This is a popular pick, by the way. I've noticed.
Been outstanding, the best receiving tandem in the league, and the defense leads the NFL in sacks. So Daniel Jones, and he has a good old line, is going to face real pressure. The offense last week for the Colts came back down to earth a little. They were 2 for 8 on third down. They weren't very good. And their defense has major holes on the back end. This is not a great Colts defense on the back end. Puka, Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford, McVay at home. I think they look much more comfortable. They beat the Colts 34 to 24. 24. This is a good spot for the Rams at home against an average beaten up secondary. Take the Rams.
I like this pick. I would follow this pick, but I'm not like in love with it necessarily. I do like this pick. I do think the Rams will win, and I do think the Rams will cover. And I think there is some credence behind what he said about the Rams dominating the Eagles, getting that large lead and then blowing it, and how that may follow up the following week, where we've seen this team dominate an elite competition on the road. Now they play a good, maybe, but not great team in the Colts at home, and they had that motivating factor of, we let that one slip last week. I do think that's a big deal. I do think Stafford has a big game against the Colts secondary. I do agree with that. And I also, though, believe in the Colts offense. And I'm not quite as big of a believer in the Rams defense from what I've seen so far this year as maybe Colin is or some others that are so all over the Rams. Yes, they have a good pass rush, but they're also very leaky in their second and third level. Like, they don't have Ahkello Witherspoon, and I know that Ahkello Witherspoon is not exactly Christian Gonzalez, but he's a good player. And without him, they really struggle to cover A.J. Brown. And their secondary is just not the same, it feels like. They don't have any size. I do think Michael Pittman could, have a pretty good game here in his return to LA, used to be a USC player. Like, Daniel Jones has been playing with a lot of confidence. They can protect. If you can block the Rams, you can throw on the Rams, you can move the ball. And I do think the Colts can block the Rams. You got to deal with Josh Downs. You got to deal with Ty Warren. You got to deal with Jonathan Taylor, who's been maybe the best running back in the league so far this year. So it's a lot for the Rams defense to deal with, man. I think it's more than the Eagles. Like, the Eagles, sure, they have better players, but their offense had looked pretty inept until that second half last week. So I like the Rams here because I trust Stafford, McVay to get right at home, and I think that eventually Daniel Jones will make a mistake under pressure. But I do kind of think that this will be a higher scoring game, and I almost like the over more than I like the Rams, right? At 30-24. I think he's right with the score. Like, that's a very accurate score prediction in my opinion. I could see 31-27, 31-24, 30-24, 30-23, somewhere in that range, 28-24, somewhere in that range. But that hook is always dangerous because the Rams could win, and they win a lot of close games, like 27-24, something like that, and that's where you could get caught. But
Bears at Raiders.
I like the Raiders. They're a slight favorite. I like the Raiders. Geno Smith, do you know this? Leads the NFL in big
I kind of like the Raiders too.
pass plays. Second in passing yards, only behind Justin Herbert. When Geno has time to throw, often this year he hasn't, he can sling it. And I think it's a great opportunity to get the running game going. The bigger story here is we're concentrating on Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson. But the Bears defense has not been good, and they're a terrible road team. 1-8 on the road last 9 games. Caleb's been...
I didn't know the record, but it certainly feels to me that the Bears are way worse on the road, and Caleb Williams is way worse on the road. I didn't really know that, but it definitely has a tangible feel.
Bad on the road. The Bears have been a bad road team, and their defense is allowing 6.7 yards a play. We're not talking about the fact that the Bears defense is struggling. Opposing quarterbacks are completing...
I mean, I'm talking about it, but...
75% of their throws against the Chicago Bears. Bad road team. The Raiders come back home trying to establish some offensive dominance up front against the team I think they'll run the ball on. I think Genti has a breakout game. I'm going to take the Raiders to win it 27-23.
I like the score again. I feel like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a higher scoring game. I think a one-score game. I could certainly see the Raiders pulling this out in like a Geno Smith 2-minute situation, last-second field goal, last-second touchdown sort of vibe. I think it's interesting that he touched so heavily on the run game because that has been a very suspect element of the Raiders so far. Like, they have not been able to run the ball. Now, when thinking about it, they did play the Patriots, the Chargers, and the Commanders, who have been pretty good against the run. So I do wonder how much of that has been the opponents. The Bears have been one of the worst teams against the run the last 2 seasons, last year and so far this year. Their secondary is also really beat up. I actually think this is a big Geno Smith game. I think Geno has a big game. Brock Bowers gets it going a little bit more. Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker looked great last week. I think they throw the ball down the field. I think that this is a case of like everyone is sort of praising, overdoing what Caleb did last week against Dallas, where it's like, it was against Dallas, like the worst defense in the league, like by far. They're awful. They're atrocious, right? And Dallas was kind of thrown off with the whole CeeDee Lamb injury and all that stuff. Like, still giving credit where credit is due for that victory. And Caleb did play well, but it's like everybody's wide open. Now, the Raiders certainly do have issues in their secondary. And I do think, like, he's right. The Bears would probably score in the 20 to 27 point range. They should at least, with Ben Johnson working against this defense. But the thing that the Raiders do have over Dallas is they're a bit more stout against the run. They're a bit better from a pass rush perspective. If you look at the Raiders, I mean, they have played the Commanders on the road. They have played the Chargers the last 2 weeks. That makes them look significantly worse than what they actually are. And it does kind of feel like a spot where they will win this game. That being said, I don't know if I'm confident enough in what the Raiders actually are, the product of this team, to actually bet this. This is one where in a free pick'em, sure, I'd pick the Raiders to win this game. With money on the line, I don't know if I can go as far as saying I would follow this pick. I would be like, this is probably a stay away. I could see either team winning this game on the last final possession. If anything, you might want to look at the over. I think it's 47. I do like the over in this game. I think both defenses are susceptible through the air. So I would maybe lean towards the over rather than putting action on either side. But I do agree with the side that he's on, which is the home team, the Raiders, who are a little bit undervalued, while the road team, the Bears, who he said struggles on the road, is kind of overvalued. So, yeah, I agree with that take overall.
Bengals and Broncos.
Okay, Broncos are coming off 2 rough road losses. They lost both games.
Interesting. So he's got Broncos -7. I've seen 7.5 in most places. I don't know where he's getting 7, but it's a better number. So I guess he's going with that. I don't know, man. We'll see what he says.
When time expired, Denver's got the much better defense. Denver's got the better head coach. Denver's got tremendous personnel up front defensively. I mean, they have the second best red zone defense. So even when you get down into the red zone, it is hard to get touchdowns out of Denver. They lead the NFL in sacks. They also get their tight end, Evan Ingram, back. This is big. This is big because Bo Nix hasn't been great throwing the ball deep this year. They've missed on big plays. So Evan Ingram is in that 12 to 14-yard space. Big.
Bengals are bad against tight ends also.
For Denver's offense. The Bengals, worst rushing attack in the league, putting more pressure on an average quarterback, Jake Browning. They don't do a lot well offensively. You see the screen. I think Denver is an undervalued team with a much better roster against a shaky O-line, an excellent pass rush. I think Denver controls the game. Bo Nix, by the way, not great in September last year, finally clicks 30-20. They cover the spread, take the Denver Broncos.
I do also kind of like the over in this game. I think it's at 44. I think the Broncos defense is really talented and their front has been really spectacular so far. Nick Bonito is a dog. I mean, that guy he might have the best get off in the NFL. He's just around the corner in like half a second. And Jake Browning playing in Denver a little bit is a little scary on prime time against that pass rush, but we saw this game last year. I know that Joe Burrow played that game and the Bengals pulled it out, and I think it was an exciting overtime game if I'm not mistaken. But we saw those receivers for the Bengals really dominate that matchup. And I did kind of feel like Cincinnati, they scored quite a few points with Browning at quarterback against Jacksonville a couple of weeks ago. Last week, they were moving the ball in Minnesota. They just kept fumbling or like throwing a terrible interception in scoring range. So I do feel like that offense does get a little bit more on track. I do think you can actually throw the ball against this secondary and this linebacker group of Denver, but you've got to be able to block them, which is the problem. And of course, Cincinnati has a really terrible run game. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate this pick whatsoever. Like, I'm not going to say I hate this pick. I just feel like this game with Denver's offense, the way they're playing, it's hard for me to trust laying a number like this because like they've been the worst first and second down offense in football. They can't run the ball on early downs. Bo Nix is missing open guys. He's kind of shaky in the pocket. Like, I could see the Bengals after a really embarrassing performance kind of coming back and maybe playing a little bit better. And I think this is a game that a lot of people are going to be betting Denver. And it just feels a little weird to me that way. Like, it feels a little shaky. But if there is a spot for Denver to get on track offensively, it should be against the Bengals at home, right? It should be. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bengals defense is not great. They made Carson Wentz look good last week. Like, Jordan Mason tore him up. So if there is a spot for Sean Payton to get his quarterback going, it should be this game. But that's kind of why I like the over, I think. Even if Denver gets a bit of a lead, they might take their foot off the gas. I could see Jake Browning fighting his way back. And I do think this is a buy low spot on the Bengals offense. So I guess I don't hate this pick, but I personally would just not bet this. I think maybe go Broncos teaser. That might be the best option here where you could tease them down to 1 point and they just have to win the game. That feels fine to me, but laying a full 7.5, 7 with Denver, I just don't know right now the way they're playing. And I don't agree that they're undervalued. I actually kind of think they're somewhat overrated. I mean, when you really look at the teams they've beaten a bunch of bad teams. Now, this is another example where it's a pretty poor team without their starting quarterback. So yeah, this could be a spot for Denver, but let me know what you guys think about that pick. That's the final pick in this video.
So once again, looking at our picks,
So he's got Vikings minus 2.5 over the Steelers. I would follow that pick. Panthers, Patriots over 43.5. I would stay away personally. I like the Patriots though to win the game and cover. The Colts at the Rams minus 3.5. If I were to pick either side, I would follow with that one. Raiders, Bears, I like the Raiders to win the game, but I don't necessarily have the balls to bet it. And the Bengals at the Broncos, I personally just like the over 44 in that matchup. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Blazing 5 in Week 4. Let me know yours in the comment section below. What is your best bet for Week 4? Thanks for watching. Peace.